Good morning. I am so sorry for the late start. I had it set up for 10. Something happened, of course. Wyoming, my favorite gal. Karen. You like the intro? I love the symphony. We're off to a great start, aren't we? Yes, we are. It's a beautiful day. The sun is out. Hopefully it is out where you are. And sorry for the late start. I did, for people interested in the horses, I didn't do one yesterday because I didn't find anything, but I have posted the video on the pics I have today. And that'll be almost uploaded. And I'll put that link in the description or in this chat. Okay, let's get on to it. 2018, like I said, was a field day for ordinances. And the chaotic invest in Dalton, BP Capital, that whole charade, I really need to do a separate live on it. I've done a video on it, but the way I'm going to structure this channel is by live streams and putting them in playlists. Really? Oh, Wyoming. I'm sorry. You want me to take a picture of the sun, make you feel better? Okay, let us get started with this. Here we go.
$30,000 to Grasso Bass PC for investing in Dalton. Can I get a motion to make the payment of $30,000 to Grasso Bass PC for investing in Dalton?
Mayor, I would like to make a motion to move to continue.
Second.
To continue or to table?
To continue.
To when?
We'll indicate to the clerk on the date.
Okay, but not today.
No, sir.
Okay.
And trustee, from what I understand from your motion, that is equivalent to a motion to table indefinitely, which means, of course, that the board can bring it up in the future, but it will not be on the agenda unless the trustees choose to place it on the agenda. Okay.
Okay, new business. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we need a vote.
So, motion to continue, equivalent to a motion to table. Motion by trustee Stubbs, second by trustee Muhammad. Roll call, trustee Muhammad.
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs.
Aye.
Trustee House, not here. Trustee Denton.
Aye.
Trustee Pearson. Trustee Henyard, not here.
Motion
On this
passed.
vote. So
Next thing on the
4-0.
agenda is item C, foreclosure registry.
I'd like to make a motion to accept Pro Champs for the database creation of by Pro Champs for the database of the foreclosed properties in the village of Dalton. Also, an ordinance is included, which should be in the record that was given to the clerk some weeks ago. And I think there might even be a letter of engagement. I don't have that in front of me, but acceptance of this ordinance and also the agreement with Pro Champs. Second.
Excuse me, trustees, those would have to be under two separate motions. You have a
Okay.
motion to approve resolution and
I
a
have
motion to enter into a
approve
contract.
resolution. Yes. Thank you, clerk.
Excuse me, it's an ordinance, actually.
There's been a motion and a second to accept the resolution of Pro Champs for the property registration. Any discussion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a fact sheet I'd like to put in the public record also. Dalton has the third highest number of active foreclosures. There are over 475 in South Cook County. Fact number 2, foreclosed, vacant, and abandoned properties present daunting challenges. Fact number 3, municipalities do not have the resources to research, identify, and register these properties. Pro Champs has developed a proven step-by-step property registration program to assist municipalities become more efficient and effective regarding property maintenance issues. It's a no-cost partnership. It wouldn't cost the village anything. The fee for the registration of these properties is $300. $200 would go to the Village of Dalton. $100 would go to Pro Champs for their creating this database. This would prove a positive revenue stream realized by our village. That's the end of my discussion.
Okay. There's a motion and a second on the floor. I'd like to insert in the record, just for the record, that the consultant for this Pro Champs is our former village administrator, Stan Urban.
That is not correct. That's misinformation, Mayor.
But that's what's identified on the internet.
Again, that's not correct. That's misinformation, Mayor.
That's what's identified on the internet. That's all I can go by. Okay, take the roll.
Motion to adopt the ordinance. Excuse me. Regarding the mortgage foreclosure registry. Trustee Muhammad.
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs.
Aye.
Trustee House. Absent. Trustee Denton.
Aye.
Trustee Pearson.
Aye.
Trustee Henyard. Absent. 4.
And it is
We have a second motion, which is the agreement between.
I just wanted to butt in here for a second. Stan Urban was the prior village administrator. He was accused of being racist and doing things to women in offices. And a lot of people don't like him. So I don't know why Stubbs and Muhammad want him to represent them. And there you have it.
Between the Village of Dalton and Property Registration Pro Champs,
that's correct.
Champions LLC.
Second.
Okay, so motion and seconded to accept agreement for Pro Champs LLC. Roll call.
Before roll call, I would like the residents and those viewing who was just told that this goes to our former village administrator, that is not correct.
I did not say.
This agreement will be in public record where you can see the agreement between the Village of Dalton. You will see also the ordinance. I believe that's what it should be, an ordinance. And you'll see that Mr. Irving's name is not on any of this documentation, and hopefully we'll have it for public display. Thank you. My vote is aye.
I did not say that it was going to him. I said he was the consultant for that company. Roll call.
On the motion to approve the agreement with Pro Champs, Trustee Muhammad.
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs.
Aye.
Trustee House is absent. Trustee Denton.
Aye.
Trustee Pearson.
Aye.
Trustee Henyard. Absent. 4. Passed.
Is B, the mayoral veto of ordinance number 18-001. That's the registration of defaulted mortgage and vacant properties. I'm vetoing this. You have the
Oh, yeah, sorry.
slips for everybody.
I do. Slip at the switch.
And they're probably just going to override it in the next meeting or so. But you know, when you talk about we don't have money to do this, do that, but all these things is going to cost us a lot of money. Okay. All right. The next thing is item C, the mayoral veto of the approval of agreement between the
Mayor,
village.
excuse me, what was
Oh, we only got 7 likes. Pause. Well, what do we talk about? Let me see. Yeah, if you want to see this stuff, just hit the like button. Subscribe if you feel like it. But a lot of work goes into these videos. I can't tell you how many. You have got to watch the entire meetings, and then you have to clip and crop and put different sections so you can make an entire video such as this. So you don't have to look through 25 hours of meetings. So hit the like button. Or don't. And go away. and consider subscribing. You want the information, right? But yeah, if we had the minutes on the website, we wouldn't have to watch these meetings and go through all this. This takes a long time to make these videos. A very, very long time. You have got to sit through 3 hours of one meeting, clip out certain things that are said in the meetings, categorize them, put them on a spreadsheet so you know what you're looking for. Take that clip, put it in the mixer, and come out with this video. It takes a long time. So hit the like button, please. 10 likes. You think that's good? All right, let's go. Thank you very much for doing that. I appreciate it.
18-001. What did you read what it was about?
I didn't read it. You had it from last time. You guys,
I don't have it in front of me.
you approved it. I'm not going to read it.
That is the registration of defaulted mortgage and vacant property ordinance.
Okay, well, I do have something to say about it. If I'm allowed to speak.
No. You can vote against it. You can override it. Next thing on the agenda is item C, mayoral veto of the approval agreement between the Village of Dalton and Property Registration Champion LLC. The reason I'm vetoing this is because our old village administrator is a consultant here. I think it's directly a conflict, and he left. They hired him, continue to hire him as a consultant here. And last time, when the trustee presented it, he said that he was not a consultant. Here it is right here. Here it is right here. There's some of you had it in your seat. I think it's a direct conflict, and I don't think we should pass it. Next thing on the agenda is D. Next one is, we're going to scratch item B. E, I'm sorry, item E. Yeah, we're going to scratch item E. Next one's,
Question, what does that mean, scratch item E?
we're not going to vote on that.
You're not going to veto it.
Not going to veto it.
Okay.
I see you removing it from the agenda.
Okay, next is the vetoing, it's item F, ordinance number 18-002, amending section 1-8-1 of Dalton Village Code with respect to the hiring and termination of employees. And that veto is, okay, section 1-8-1 of the Dalton Village Code is hereby amended to add subsection C to provide as follows. Employee hiring. The hiring of all employees other than appointed officers and the amount of their initial salary shall be approved by the Board of Trustees prior to an offer of employment is made. The Board of Trustees shall be provided with the resumes and any additional information compelled by the village for all applicants prior to their approval. Secondly, the appeal of employee termination. Any employee other than appointed officers and employees covered by a collective bargaining agreement may appeal their termination of employment to the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees shall approve or disapprove the termination after allowing the employee and mayor to submit written evidence no later than the second regular village board meeting after termination. If the Board of Trustees disapprove the termination, the employee shall be restored to the position from which he or she was removed. And this is what I'm vetoing. Because in some cases, the salaries are described, especially with union members. The board has no right to change those salaries if it's agreed upon a contract by the union. That's for one instance here. The other is, and going back to taking my authority away to hire or fire, I think that there could be some egregious acts that could take place where an employee needs to be terminated, and depending the makeup of the board and also who may have recommended that person to be hired, it could be viewed as him being reinstated, he or she being reinstated to their position. So that was an additional reason that I vetoed this. So it's on record. All the trustees have been notified, and there's no vote on this. This probably will be. I'm sorry.
That's the original.
Yeah, it probably will be voted on to override at a later date. Next thing on the agenda is the ordinance number 18-003, amending fees and charges for building permits, inspections, and licenses. This is put on by our permit department head, Ms. Phillips. Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for ordinance number 18-003, amending fees and charges for building permits, inspections, and license.
There a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve the amending of the fees and charges in ordinance number 18-003 for building permits, inspections, and licenses. Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a question, Mayor.
Go ahead.
For this, why didn't this go through Housing Committee? I don't know who put it on the agenda, but I had a housing meeting that Monday, and we could have discussed the fees and the increases so that the residents would know what exactly is being increased.
Trustee, it was discussed, to my understanding, at the Finance Committee meeting
Okay.
the next day.
Okay. Still don't answer my question to why it wasn't under housing. It says building and permits, inspections, which we just discussed, and I'm not understanding why it didn't go through Housing Committee.
Who are you directing that question to, Trustee Henry?
I guess I don't know who increased the fees or who approved the increase on the fees. Who approved it? Did any of the trustees approve this? The fees for the increase? We just increased them because of what? Who approved it? Who looked it over?
These were mentioned at the Finance Committee meeting. To your point of it being more housing than finance, I can concede, and that may have been a misstep, but it was discussed at the Finance Committee meeting.
Okay. Well, I would like to table it or send it to Housing Committee, if possible. If not, we vote on it. We vote on it. But I think we should overlook it.
If I can, Trustee, one of the things on this one is that if we don't put these in place by April 30th, they won't be in effect for the next fiscal year, and the notices need to be going out right away. There was a resident that wanted to make sure that we discussed all fees with the residents beforehand, so I'm in agreement and generally that we want to make sure the residents have feedback, but if we prolong it a little bit longer, we won't recognize the revenue until the next fiscal year.
All right, you said by April 30th. It is April 2nd. So we have time.
No, we only have a count meeting left.
I would go along with tabling it if we set a time frame right now, because we're still that precedes April 30th, because we have the committee of the whole and we don't have a vote.
Discuss it over email like we do with anything else.
Yeah, Trustee, you got some support here. I support what you're saying. If you table this and you got to vote to table it, I would recommend that we hold a special meeting as quickly as possible, your housing meeting, committee meeting, as quickly as possible, so it can come together before the end of the licensing.
Okay.
I'll second the motion to table that.
I would like to make a motion to table this to Housing Committee.
Okay, and it's been seconded. Any further? Roll call.
On the motion to table, Trustee Muhammad.
Abstain.
Trustee Stubbs.
Hello, Trustee Stubbs?
Hello?
Are
I
you,
abstain also.
Trustee House.
Aye.
Trustee Denton.
Aye.
Trustee Pearson.
Present.
Trustee Henyard.
Aye.
and it's not a
Okay.
vote. Is it 3-3?
3-3.
Aye. Okay, I support the fact that it should have went through housing, just as Trustee House said. There was a misstep there, and I think due to the fact of trying to put some things in place to increase some revenue. So, Trustee, I would suggest that you get with Madam Clerk to kind of readily
Will do.
set a meeting for a special meeting to discuss it in your committee. Okay, motion carries, override my veto. So we don't, could we combine A and B?
No, we'd like to make on a separate, please.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda, override my veto on the approval of the agreement between registration for Champions LLC. Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to override of Mayor Veto, approve of agreement between the Village of Dalton and Property Registration Champions LLC. Can I get a second?
Second.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Is it discussion, Mayor?
It's been motioned and seconded to override my veto on the approval agreement between the Village of Dalton Property Registration Champions LLC. Go ahead, Trustee.
Thank you, Mayor. The reason why I wanted to talk about this, because we're kind of losing sight of what this company does. It's no cost to the village, number one. What they would do, they would create a database of all of the vacant properties, foreclosed properties, and have contact information with the banks. We would be charging the bank $400 twice a year. That's $800 per home that we would see, and Pro Champs would, of course, get $100 each time. So that means that $800 a month minus $200, we would accrue $600 per property, and if you multiply that at least by 400, you can do the math. $400 to the Village of Dalton at no cost times $600. So we could realize potentially $240,000, which would help pay for grass cutting, board up service. So that's a positive revenue source for us that cost us no money to the village, but sometimes we get caught up in the politics of this, because my understanding that when this was brought before Mayor, you actually were in agreement with it, and you're absolutely right. We did vote it down in the beginning, but you know, we've had legislation come to us before that was voted down, such as when you were the proponent for a kiosk that we voted to lower their fees for their business license, or if it wasn't their business license, it was actually for the machines themselves, because we had raised the fee, I believe, to $1,000, and then we finally came back and agreed to lower it to $500. So there are times that we have had legislation come before us that we may have voted no in the past and then came back and voted yes. So that's the reason for my yes on this ordinance number 18-001, and also the approval of the agreement between Property Registration Champions, just to let everybody know that this is a positive cash flow for the Village of Dalton, and it cost us $0.
Now, you voted to have BP Capital take the properties, the vacant properties. So if they take the vacant properties, how many is going to be left to register? Because when BP takes the properties, we don't get anything for it. I know we did pay a $30,000 bill to have the liens filed against those properties that BP Capital's taken. I don't.
Can I respond to that, Mayor? Because that's not accurate. Okay.
Very inaccurate.
You're mixing apples and oranges as usual. Sir, there are 6 properties that we will have possession of, and I'm glad you brought this up, because at our next meeting, what we will have for the residents, and thank you, residents, for calling in to get information on these properties. We will have 6 properties available under the Invest in Dalton program, and for those who are viewing, we will have on the website applications, frequently asked questions, so that this confusion can go away, just like you're conflating right now with this issue of Pro Champs, which has nothing to do with the 2 programs that we're referring to. The Pro Champ simply is a registration that we're charging the banks twice a year. Some of you may ask, well, why are you charging them twice a year? Because oftentimes the information changes from one bank to another very rapidly, so we make sure that we are charging them on a biannual basis to accrue. I don't understand why we'd have an issue of accruing cash from banks of abandoned and foreclosed properties in the village of Dalton, whether it's 400 properties, 300 properties, 200 properties. We had a resident come to that microphone and say she would investigate, and she found it was true. Pro-Champs is in the Southland. I think you said it was only in one state at that time, but it's in more than one municipality that they're happy and satisfied with this company. So it's a positive cash flow. It pays for the grass cutting. It pays for boarding up of properties, and now we can get a hold of these properties and know which banks have them so we can make them pay the bills that we've been paying in the past, Mayor.
Mayor, can I make a quick statement?
Let's move on.
Okay.
They took the vote or not?
Just take the vote.
Okay, go ahead and take the vote.
Vote wasn't taken.
On the motion to override item A under old business, approval of agreement between the Village of Dalton and Property Registration Champions LLC, Trustee Muhammad.
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs.
Aye.
Trustee House.
No.
Trustee Denton.
Aye.
Trustee Pearson.
Aye.
Trustee Henyard.
No.
4-2.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion made to suspend the rules. For what reason, trustee?
Have announcement.
We good with that? Okay. It's been
Have a
motioned
floor,
and
please.
seconded to suspend the rules for an announcement. We need a vote on that? Okay. Go ahead, trustee.
I have the floor. Thank you, Mayor. On March 26, 2018, the city of Chicago filed suit against the village of Dalton, seeking damages, an injunction and attorney's fees against the village for its failure to pay the city of Chicago for water. In 2011 and 2014, an agreement was signed to make payments to catch up on payments to Chicago. This mayor signed the 2014 agreement. Chicago says that Dalton has not made all of the settlement payments and owes $2.7 million in unpaid water charges since 2014 settlement. Chicago also says that Dalton made unauthorized transfers out of the water fund totaling $8,895,493. Bottom line, Chicago says Dalton owes Chicago $6,640,496.30 for unpaid water bills and $1,267,936.61 in penalties, for a grand total of $7,908,432.91 as of March 19th, 2018. And I yield to Trustee Stubbs.
Mayor, may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to make a statement. Upon receiving the suit from Attorney Murphy, is dated back to 2011, when Mayor Riley was actually a trustee at that particular time, and he took a vote. The vote was 5 yeses and 1 pass to pay back the rearage on our water bill. In 2014, I was not sitting on this board, Madam Clerk, and this is for the record. I had no knowledge of the rearage. I had no knowledge that an agreement was made in 2014 by Mayor Riley and the city of Chicago to pay back monies owed to the Chicago Water Department and to pay also the current water department. At that particular time, when I took office, Trustee Hunt was he was the finance chairperson at that particular time. I was never made aware of any monies owed, any rearage owed. I was always told by the mayor's office, his administrator, the gentleman that worked for him, that he hired. I was not here when he was hired. I was not elected at that particular time, and I would like that to go on record, that I had no knowledge of that. All I was told was the water bill was being paid, and I was told that information not only by the administrator, but also by the mayor, and I would like that to be in record. Also, I have a copy of that signed off by Mayor Riley in my possession in 2011. I would like to state for the record that another order was passed and the trustees was included in that decision-making of paying back the money. This have Trustee Green motioned it, second by Trustee Jefferson. The vote was taken, 5 yeses. Trustee Green, Trustee Riley Rogers, Trustee Harris, Trustee Jefferson, Trustee Bendale, and Trustee Smith passed. So I had no knowledge of that was going on. I was always told that that bill was being paid. Thank you.
Trustee Pearson.
Mayor, may I?
Go ahead. I want to make a comment first before you go. I have no recollection of telling you, Trustee Stubbs. Matter of fact, you had very limited conversation with me in regards that I told you the bill was being paid. Go ahead, Trustee Pearson.
Mayor, may I?
Wait, let me.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Trustee Pearson.
During this time of the non-payment of these water bills, the mayor's administration repeatedly stated to the trustees that Dalton was making its settlement payments to Chicago. The mayor's administration never told the trustees that not only was Dalton not making those payments, it wasn't even making its current payments. The mayor's administration never advised the trustees that unauthorized transfers were being made out of the water fund. Several times, I asked the village administrator if we had the money to pay the corporate bills that we were about to approve, and I was always told yes. The attorney told us he was discussing settlement with Chicago, and that we had time before they filed suit. There is no settlement. The village has been sued, and now we will have more legal fees. Trustee Muhammad?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Trustees. Mr. Attorney, is it the province of the mayor to recognize
Yes.
speakers?
If I could be recognized, Mayor, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Clerk. As the finance chairperson, I have tried to get the information necessary to properly review and establish our budget and deal with our financial problems. We, the trustees, will be working with our legislative counsel, Ms. Redmond, and our auditors to develop a solution. So, Mayor, we just have a few questions that if you would answer, and I'll continue. Mayor, you signed the 2014 settlement agreement. Why was it, that's not my question, please, if you don't mind. Why was it violated? Did the board ever vote on this agreement with Chicago? If so, we can't find it. Also, I was reached by an investigative body today, and they asked you concerning this matter, and you said you put it in the hands of Mr. Urban, who reports directly to you, and he's an appointment by you, and you told that investigative body that you know nothing of what Stan Urban did, and of course my response was BS, because Stan Urban reported directly to you, not the trustees.
Well, first of all, I'm not going to sit here and let you interrogate me. I'm not sure who you think you are, but I'm not under examination by you. So I'm not going to answer any of your questions that you want to pose to me.
Okay, well then I'll continue then, and they'll just go in the record, Clerk. Mayor, the budget for 14, 15, 16, and 17 was not addressing this violation in Chicago water contract that you signed. Your administration has been transferring monies from the water account general use without advising the board or the public. Your administration, Mayor, has failed to be truthful with the residents and the board, and we are now faced with an over $2 million deficit requiring cuts and layoffs.
That unauthorized transfers were being made out of the water fund. Several times, I asked the village administrator.
I'll play it back, Wyoming. Brr, good morning. I was going to do a video on the lakes, right? And I had all the information, and all of a sudden it disappeared from the website. So that was interesting. We'll have to see what goes on with that. But I'm going to rewind it, Wyoming, so you can hear it. The board eventually did vote on Chicago paying Chicago in the agreement in 2017, right? But now they're saying they didn't vote.
If we had the money to pay the corporate bills that we were about to approve, and I was always told yes. The attorney told us he was discussing settlement with Chicago and that he had time before they filed, we had time before they filed suit. There is no settlement. The village has been sued, and now we will have more legal fees. Trustee Muhammad?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Trustees. Mr. Attorney, is it the province of the mayor to recognize
Yes.
speakers?
If I could be recognized, Mayor, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, clerk. As the finance chairperson, I have tried to get the information necessary to properly review and establish our budget and deal with our financial problems. We, the trustees, will be working with our legislative counsel, Ms. Redmond, and our auditors to develop a solution. So, Mayor, we just have a few questions that if you would answer, and I'll continue. Mayor, you signed the 2014 settlement agreement. Why was it, that's not my question, please, if you don't mind. Why was it violated? Did the board ever vote on this agreement with Chicago? If so, we can't find it. Also, I was reached by an investigative body today, and they asked you concerning this matter, and you said you put it in the hands of Mr. Urban, who reports directly to you, and he's an appointment by you, and you told that investigative body that you know nothing of what Stan Urban did, and of course my response was BS, because Stan Urban reported directly to you, not the trustees.
Well, first of all, I'm not going to sit here and let you interrogate me. I'm not sure who you think you are, but I'm not under examination by you. So I'm not going to answer any of your questions that you want to pose to me.
Okay, well then I'll continue then, and they'll just go in the record, clerk. Mayor, the budget for 14, 15, 16, and 17 was not addressed in this violation in Chicago water contract that you signed. Your administration has been transferring monies from the water account general use without advising the board or the public. Your administration, Mayor, has failed to be truthful with the residents and the board, and we are now faced with an over $2 million deficit requiring cuts and layoffs. Look at this mess you have created for this village. You gave the authority to transfer the water account monies because Stan Urban, our former village administrator, reports to you. You cannot blame Stan Urban. He worked for you. Yes, he may have signed checks, but he can't transfer millions of dollars of village funds without your knowledge, consent, and or approval. Are you telling us he was able to transfer millions each year, 2014, 15, 16, and 17, without your knowledge or consent? Then you should resign for failure to protect the residents' monies. Mayor, you are the chief executive officer. It's your duty and responsibility to manage and protect the village funds, and if you are unable, then you should resign.
Mayor, may I be recognized, please?
Go ahead, trustee.
Mayor, under your administration, we never saw a water payment on the village warrant list as a payment for approval to the city of Chicago. Like all other village financial obligation, you and your administration kept telling us the water bill was paid. And we, as well as the residents, trusted you, and you let us down. Mayor, I have to ask this question. Mayor, why haven't you paid current water bills for Chicago? I have to ask another question. Mayor, why did you lie to the trustees about paying Chicago? Mayor, why did the $8.8 million transferred out of the water, where did the water fund money go?
I'd like to ask the question, how long did it take you to rehearse all this?
Well, this is something, isn't it? Millions and millions of dollars being transferred from one account to the other under Rogers, right? Was he crucified in the media? A little bit. Was it to the extent of today? No. So,
$8 million is not funny. This is not funny, Mayor. This is a serious issue.
Well, I'm going to ask the village attorney to comment on everything that you've said.
That's what happens when you don't have the answers. You refer to counsel.
Why'd you hire one? Why'd the board hire a counsel? You talk about us being in a financial condition. We've already got village counsel. But
You wouldn't let the attorney answer for you for the $8 million.
The village has a serious problem. The responsibility is a shared responsibility. All of the records dealing with expenditure of funds, transfer of monies from the water fund to the general fund are matters which were approved by the board. These are also matters that have
Not
been...
true.
That's not true.
That
That
have
is
been-
not true.
These are also matters that have been apparent in the budget. This village has been operating at a deficit for many years and has been approving transfers of money from the water fund to the general fund. The ultimate responsibility for expenditure of village funds lies with the entire board. The mayor has no responsibility or no authority to make expenditures. It's the village board that's responsible for adopting a budget and for monitoring the finances. It is, in my view, incumbent on the board to look this problem in the eye and make a determination how to best pay your bills. You haven't been doing that for a number of years, and it is now time for this board to do that.
Mayor, may I?
Let me back up one area. I'm reluctant to discuss any further because I don't want to breach obligations of, or the limitations of executive sessions. I told the village board that the city of Chicago was going to sue us. I said I would try to negotiate a longer repayment plan. The city rejected my overtures to negotiate a repayment plan, and the Corporation Council said we are going to file suit. As soon as I got that word from the Corporation Council, I sent a memorandum to the board so advising them. So as soon as I found out that the city was not going to wait on Dalton any further, I notified the board. We are now in litigation, and we will continue to work with the Corporation Council and with the court to determine a way for this village to be able to pay the water bills without any further transfers of money from the water fund to the general fund.
May I be recognized, Mayor?
Go ahead, trustee.
As I have stated earlier, for the record, Trustee Stubbs wasn't sitting here in 2014 when this agreement was made. And in that agreement at that particular time that Mayor Riley Rogers signed off on, if you look at number 6, it says separate funds. The funds should have been separated in a separate account during that period of time. That money should only have went towards the water bill and the sewage. That money should not have been transferred to the general account for whatever reason. I'm speaking for me, Valerie Stubbs, was not aware of any monies being transferred from the water account to the general account to do whatever you pleased. That should have came across the board just like it did in 2011 when you agreed as a trustee, Mayor Riley, to pay back the money, and then turned around in 2014 and agreed to pay the monies back along with the current monies to the Chicago Water Department. Now, we were told, and I say we now because it was two of us in the administrator's office, it was two of us in the mayor's office downstairs, even though he states that he didn't have that conversation with us, that the water bill was being paid back. For the record, Mary Kay. Thank you.
May I be recognized, Mayor?
Hold on a minute. As the chief executive officer, yes, I did sign the agreement. That agreement was negotiated by our village attorney. And the clerk just advised me that the board was advised of that agreement. There was a resolution that came across this board, and the board knew everything that was going on. Secondly, the board approves the budget. The board approves the expenditures. So where did you think the money was coming from when you approved those expenditures to get paid?
May I be recognized, Mayor?
Go ahead, trustee.
Two things. The attorney stated that the trustees approved transfer of funds. If you take notice to our audit that was done in the last 3 years, which are probably the best audits, and we were admonished by our auditor, but nowhere in public record will you see a vote by these trustees after 2015. The agreement that you made was in 2014, and 90% of this board was not here. I think there's only one trustee was here at that time. But we never had a public vote where we approved a transfer of funds from the water department. I want to put that on the record, and we were not here in 2014 for this agreement, so that if there was a resolution, which I'm sure there was, the trustees present were not here for that approval of the agreement of 2014 that was broken by yourself and your administration.
You keep referring to me broken by myself. This board controls the purse, not me. Everything is voted on as far as expenditures, agreements, budget is voted on by this board.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
No, I want to have the village attorney refresh your memory.
The village board in 2016 approved resolutions determining that an amount of money that had been over the years transferred from water to general fund to the tune of over $8 million should be deemed uncollectible. A similar resolution was adopted determining that millions and millions of dollars transferred from the general fund to the Dorchester fund be deemed uncollectible. So the board adopted corporate resolutions since 2014, which indicated the board was aware of what was going on between the water fund and the general fund, and how the water fund was subsidizing the general fund because, among other things, the village board hasn't increased the property tax levy for many years, and expenses have been increasing. So the notion that the board wasn't aware, I think, will not stand up to the public record.
Mayor, can I
Go ahead,
say
I'm
something
sorry.
here?
Go ahead, trustee.
It's a shame that we're in this situation, and it's a shame that we go back and forth with who's responsible. It would, committee chairs are supposed to have great oversight over their committee, and that's what I'm being told. But it's a struggle to try to work with department heads when we're told, they're told, don't give them nothing. They ain't got no business in here. Make an appointment. Don't give them no paperwork. That's very difficult. And now you want to hold us responsible for this shortage. And you know that this shortage comes when the financial person comes up to Stan Urbans and says, what do we pay? And Stan decided what should be paid. There was no chairperson here to make that decision. That was your administration. And Stan Urban was hired by you. He wasn't hired by us.
Actually, he was.
No, we don't hire department heads.
You approved the department heads. And if you recall, just to refresh your memory, you talked about there was no chair people for these committees. If you recall, when I appointed chair people, the ordinance was changed that I could not appoint them.
You couldn't appoint who?
I couldn't appoint the chair people.
Yeah, I didn't say you did.
What are you talking about?
There was no village administrator.
What are you talking about? There was no chair
I'm
people
saying
for the
the chair, the people who, chair these committees cannot just come in here and do what they want to do or say what they want to say or try to get things done the way they want to get things done, because you remind them very vividly that they are not the mayor and they don't have the right to be here. And you tell your department heads not to give us information.
It's not true.
Oh, yes, it is.
The problem is when the trustees come in, and this village attorney has reminded the trustees that you cannot interfere with employees' day-to-day work operations. And it's been a constant problem. Some of the employees have told me that they fear, since you've taken authority from me to hire and fire, they fear being fired by the trustees if they don't give them the information. But you come in during the day when they're doing work and you expect them to stop what they're doing and provide you with all kind of information. It's time consuming for them, and it's not fair to them.
Well, I just want to say that that's not what I hear from the employees. They're not afraid that we're going to terminate them. They're afraid you're going to terminate them.
How am I going to do that?
Giving us information.
How am I going to do that when you change the ordinance where I can't hire or fire without consent and advice of the board? How am I going to do it?
The department heads are still under your jurisdiction, Mayor.
Department heads, that's true.
Yeah, and if you want to hire one or terminate one, it's consent of the board, but
you don't go into to just the department heads. Trustees have interfered with almost every employee in this administration right here. Not just in here, public works too. Police department, fire department. I've had employees from every office tell me about how they've been interrupted by trustees, and trustees demand that they want information just at that time, disturbing them, whatever they're doing with their job duties. And the village attorney had put a letter out, not to the new trustees, but previous trustees in regards to the interference that they caused with the employees.
Well, Mayor, all I can say is that I, personally, Robert Pearson, for the record, have never went to see any department head without calling and making an appointment.
What about other employees?
Calling and saying, can you see me, or when can you see me? And I do get from different department heads, I'm tied up this week, I can see you next Tuesday. I even met with Chief Collins on Saturday. I said, whatever's good for you. He said, Saturday's good for me, and I met him on Saturday. So I never came in and stopped in the department head from performing their duties or asked them to see me without an appointment. So I don't know who you're talking about.
Okay, any further? Where are we going?
Yes, Mayor, may I be recognized, please?
Go ahead. It's about time that we get back to our regular meeting.
The couple of things I want to clear up that you said, the trustees interfere with the workers and intimidation by trustees. Trustee Pearson and myself, I'll agree that when we, as committee chair people, we make appointments with department heads. We just don't bust in someone's office. We make an appointment and we go see them. I do not talk to employees, and what I've heard from department heads was an intimidation not by ourselves but by you after we talked with them. But the last thing I want to state for the record, so to clear up any confusion, it was July, upon the leaving of Mr. Urban, that we found out that we were in arrearages of our water bill. You told us that he had not made payment, I believe, in the last 3 months, and this was at the beginning of July. But upon further investigation, we discovered that we were further behind in the 3 months that you told the trustees. I just want that to go on the record about the water payment and the interference with the workers, and there is no intimidation by trustees. That's not what we do. We deal with department heads, and we generally make an appointment with the department heads who are very amenable to us, and we have great meetings to get information, but we also are told that when we mention names from these microphones, there is an intimidation that comes from your office and not the trustees.
Well, I find it hard to believe since I don't have the power to hire a fire. So anyway, can we get back to our meeting?
Oop, trying to hit that mute button there. Yeah, Wyoming. It would be nice to see some meeting minutes. So, let's do a little digging. Oh, wrong button. Wait a minute. I need more coffee, I think. Okay. What do we got? Make it big. There we go. April 2nd, 2018. Meeting minutes of the trustees. Uh-oh. What do we got to find? Yeah, I should really do a video on all of these meeting minutes that can be sucked out of the internet that you just can't seem to find anymore. But let's just go over this a little bit. Called order, pledge and prayer, roll call. Denton, Henyard, House, Muhammad, Pearson, and Stubbs. April 2nd, 2018. Department heads, Mary K. Dugan, who I like Mary Kay. I do. Murphy is, of course, the village attorney. Approval of minutes. Okay. Communications, none. Trustee Muhammad motioned to suspend order business to discuss the lawsuit filed by the City of Chicago against the village for non-payment of water. Trustee Stubbs seconded the motion. Rogers agreed to suspend. There was no roll call. Muhammad announced that the City of Chicago has alleged that $7,908,432.91 is owed. Stubbs said she had no knowledge. We're just, replaying what was said in these minutes, right? Should I just pause and let you read it, or do you want me to read it? Now, I've seen on the warrant list where they're paying double payments to Chicago. Are they missing water payments now? Recently, I've seen double payments to the City of Chicago on the warrant lists. So, yeah, a shot of tequila. Looks like Tiffany and trustees just continue on doing the same old things. Oh, yes, thank you, So Serve and Save. Please hit the like button and, consider subscribing to the channel if you'd like to. But these are the meeting minutes. Dug up from the dwells of the abyss, right? Stubbs says she has no knowledge of nothing being paid. Pearson said that the mayor's administration, including village administrator, who was Stan Urban. Jeez, I got it right. Never told the trustees that the payments were not being made. Muhammad said that the trustees believe the mayor should resign. This is just rinse and repeat. I wonder, yeah, and I'm serious about this. I wonder if the trustees in these board meetings are advising the trustees today, because there are so many similarities in what they are doing, what actions they are taking. I'm wondering, because it's just too familiar to me. It's much too familiar. You can't make it up. Stubbs added that the mayor had let the village down and asked why the village did not pay, why the mayor lied about it, and where did the money go. Did they write this speech down and just regurgitated it for this board that's active today? Anybody? Does it seem like it? I don't know. It seems too familiar to me. Murphy noted that in 2014, the Board of Trustees entered into a repayment agreement with Chicago. Stubbs says she was not on the Board of Trustees at the time, but the mayor had told two of the trustees who were on the board that the water bill to Chicago was being paid. The village clerk confirmed that the Board of Trustees had passed a resolution approving a repayment agreement in 2024. So if anybody wants to say, well, no, they didn't owe Chicago. No, they still don't owe Chicago. They did. And it's proof right here, right? It's just, Muhammad said there was never a public vote approving transfer of water revenue to other accounts. Murphy responded that in 2016, the Board of Trustees approved a resolution forgiving transfers from the general fund to the Dorchester and from the water fund to the general fund. Pearson said that department heads are being told not to give trustees any information. Does that sound familiar? Rogers responded that the village attorney has already told trustees they cannot interfere with day-to-day operations. Does that sound familiar? Pearson says he never went to a department head without calling first. But you notice Stubbs and Muhammad never said that. No engineers report. Human Services, Payment Center. Okay, we can read this. Finance. See, there's your property with the finance, Ms. Redmond receiving $4 million in property tax collections, which is 47% of expected collections from the first installment tax bills. That's what you have to recognize, because the expected revenue from property tax isn't always what they get. I don't think he would like it. Yeah. Well, he offered to talk to me on the phone or on live. And I proceeded to tell him about the situation with another content creator wreaking havoc and putting me under investigation. I don't think I ever heard from Jason again after that email. The FBI, once knowing all this, could be looking at all of these people to find out where the money went. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wyoming. You guys make comments. I'm laughing my ass off in the background. Yeah. They sure do. But, they expect to get revenue, but do they get all of it? So there's a finance committee, special events, corporate bills. Okay. Mohammed read the court order that the village attorney cannot continue to represent the village in an employment discrimination suit filed by Lieutenant Lewis Lacey against the village because the village attorney had previously represented the village and Lieutenant Lacey in lawsuits against both. The court ruled that because of the prior representation of Lacey, it was a conflict of interest against Lacey for the village attorney to represent the village of Dalton in defense of the suit by Lacey. What was Lacey filing suit against the village for? Or was, employment discrimination? Lacey. These people go way back. All of them. It's just wash, rinse, repeat. We'll have to look up that case, I guess. Trustees had miscellaneous concerns in reference to the administrative hearing officer. Why don't you just say what concerns you had instead of saying miscellaneous? I don't know. Rogers questioned the motion for non-payment for current legal fees or legal services, while the majority of the trustees approved the bills for Schwartz, recently appointed by a majority of trustees as legislative counsel, including bills predating the firm's appointment. Rogers reminded the trustees that the village received written notice that the village attorney would sue the village and the trustees individually for breach of contract for non-payment. And there are your... Rogers had to break the tie on that. There's your corporate bills. Oh, look, ordinances. Wait, there's an ordinance there. Defaulted mortgage and vacancy property. This is why meeting minutes are so important, and Jason House and Clerk Key and High Society Management, would you please put this stuff up there? And not just from 2021, because you have all of this information. We really need to do the deep dive into Invest in Dalton, BP Capital, Pro Champs, South Suburban Land Bank. You think so? This goes way back. And they're talking about Pro Champs. Why do you have to have all these companies involved in getting rid of your vacant properties? That's something I want to know. Override of legislative council. So there are minutes out there. Why aren't you putting them up? More ordinances. I don't know. I just don't know. Class 7 for the Dorchester Senior Center. Class 7. Wyoming, what is a Class 7? So I don't have to look it up. Do I have to look it up? We know about the Class 8s. Is it similar? With just different adages? But here are your ordinances. Sandra Phillips. Yeah. They wanted to up the charges for building permits, inspections, and licenses. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Denton, Henyard, and House voted yes. Muhammad, Pearson, and Stubbs voted to abstain. In other words, they didn't vote yes or no. They just didn't want to vote. I wonder why. Maybe because it has to do with housing, permits, that kind of stuff. Just putting it out there. These ordinances, you know how long it's going to take to synchronize these ordinances in with the board meetings? It's going to be terrible. But I think we have to do it, right? I think. Grave, how are you today? Good to see you. Ronald Burge and Lacey sued the village for retaliatory discharge. Is that what happened? And that was 2018? Thank you very much for that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Very much. One thing for sure, they're not going to give federal grants for years. I don't know. Here's ASCME contract. There's the approval for it. Citizens address. My goodness. Mrs. Creighton. You had to love the Creightons, right? They were into everything. Then you have the adjournment. Mary Kay Dugan. But I did want to show you something else. This is from something else for the agenda. Hopefully I can pop up the right one before we get the flock out of here. I hope. Hopefully this is the one. Yeah. Okay. So this is an agenda for March 27th, 2018. And that's it. They went over the budget. That was it. That was the whole agenda for that. Let's see if I have another one. Yeah, okay. I got another. Because the budget, yeah, okay. So let's go here, and then I will see. January 19th, 2016 agenda. Oh, let me see what Grave has to say. Looking at court docs, the complaint was filed 2015 and settled in 2018. Well done, Grave Secrets. Very well done. And welcome. We appreciate you. Wow. 2015. I haven't been keeping up with the court documents, trying to get things done. Can't get grants without audited financial statements. We have so many great people on this channel, and I say it every time, but I really mean it. People come in that have a lot of knowledge, you know, and that's what we love here. I don't. Are the grants under an FBI investigation? I think everything is at this point, right? When the FBI investigates, they investigate everything. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Oh, I've got it up. I'm sorry. January 19th, 2016. Where is it? Can I make it bigger? Yes, I can. There we go. So this is the agenda. Okay, 2016. We're going to try to pull these from the cloud as much as we can. Executive session. Oh, that's it. You got the village clerk's report, corporate bills, old business, new business, and trustees reports, mayor reports, executive session, adjournment. That's it. That's how I guess they used to do it, which is useless. Oh, well, yeah. All federal grants and state grants have very strict guidelines, you know. And if you hear that stirring, my mother just got up and getting her coffee. Okay, that's where we're going to end it today. Thank you very much, Grave Secrets. We really appreciate that. I can't tell you how much. If you like what you see, hit the like button. If not, don't. And consider to subscribe. We are still working on the mental health channel. Hopefully, it's going to be a banger. Okay, everybody. Thank you so very much. Have a great day, and we'll try to see you at 7 o'clock on time this time.